Number 5. Insights from the field. Essential Needs Assessment Case Studies. In this 5th and final video of the Essential Needs Assessment Insight series, we will walk you through some examples of how essential needs assessments are conducted in practice by WFP. Rohingya Emergency Vulnerability Assessment. Focus on vulnerability profiling. Cox's Bazar has been the center of one of the world's largest refugee crises. Since 2017, an unprecedented influx of Rohingya refugees has led to a deterioration of food security of refugees and host communities. Acknowledging the multiple needs vulnerable populations are facing, WFP, in collaboration with the Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies, the International Food Policy Research Institute, and Action Against Hunger, ACF, conducted essential needs assessments to provide recommendations that address priority needs of the most vulnerable. Focus group discussions and key informant interviews were conducted, as well as partner consultations with all relevant sectors, including shelter, health, education, protection, nutrition, and the Cash Working Group, to understand the main challenges of refugees in terms of meeting their needs, and to adjust the design of the household survey to the local context. A representative household survey was conducted covering refugees and host communities. Households were categorized into different vulnerability tiers based on their level of food consumption, the severity of negative livelihood coping strategies they applied, and their economic capacity to meet essential needs. Results showed that despite high rates of unacceptable food consumption among refugee households in general, almost half of those who received in-kind or food voucher assistance were selling parts of it to obtain cash. The essential needs perspective of the assessment helped to detect the root causes of this behavior. Households sold assistance to address other needs, such as dry and fresh fish, vegetables, fuel, healthcare, medicines, toiletries, clothing, and transportation. Nearly half of the refugee households had a poor or borderline food consumption. Savings and other resources were completely or partially depleted. Hence, households with fragile livelihoods or no stable income were adopting high-risk coping strategies to meet their essential needs. These results helped to better adjust the assistance to needs. WFP increased the value of e-vouchers and set up fresh food corners and farmers markets to allow households to buy a more diverse diet. Households received more fuel as well. Self-reliance and livelihood activities were scaled up to support income opportunities. Furthermore, collaboration across different sectors was improved. The essential needs assessment led to improvements in the joint and coordinated response, and partners continuing to explore the use of common platforms for responding to the various needs. The results also informed a joint assessment mission and joint action plan by UNHCR and WFP. Essential Needs Assessment in Kinshasa Metropolitan Area. Focus on urban sampling. With an estimated population of about 12 million people, Kinshasa is the third largest city in Africa. Poverty is widespread. A large share of the population lives in slums and lacks access to basic services. Together with local partners, WFP conducted an essential needs assessment to identify the drivers and root causes of food insecurity among the urban poor. The Kinshasa assessment not only illustrates how an essential needs approach is relevant for understanding the urban context, it is also a best practice example of survey design in urban settings where livelihoods are diverse, fluid, and complex. The assessment team followed the standard process of an essential needs assessment. First, a brief secondary data review was conducted, followed by focus group discussions and key informant interviews with neighborhood chiefs, which informed the design of the questionnaire for the household survey. The household survey sample was designed to give representative estimates for the 5 most vulnerable communes following a gridded population sampling. Each commune was designated as a distinct stratum. A grid of cells measuring 50 meters by 50 meters per pixel was overlaid to the shapefile of the strata. Each cell was weighted according to its population density, using information from the 2014 Demographic Health Survey. Within each stratum, cells were regrouped into clusters. After that, a standard two-stage cluster sampling was applied by randomly selecting clusters based on probability proportionate to size, and then households. Finally, the household survey was based on a sample of 1,900 households and provided statistically representative data for the quantitative indicators. These helped WFP understand that financial constraints are the main reason why households were not able to meet their essential needs. Vulnerable households were often forced to prioritize between different needs, resulting in widespread food insecurity. Manila Rapid Urban Essential Needs Assessment to assess impacts of COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic will have severe implications on how vulnerable people worldwide are able to meet their essential needs. It threatens not only people's health, but will also bring income losses for many. The urban poor will be among the hardest hit. In the Philippines, WFP collaborated with the government to monitor a cash transfer scheme of an existing national social assistance program covering certain areas of Manila and Mindanao, and to understand if it effectively enables vulnerable people to meet their essential needs. As the situation is dynamic and information needs to be available in the short term, a rapid essential needs assessment was implemented. Face-to-face interviews cannot be conducted due to movement restrictions, so the assessment was implemented using remote data collection through phone surveys, covering both beneficiaries and non-beneficiaries. Consultations with the government helped to adjust the questionnaire to the local needs. Changes were also necessary to adjust the questionnaire to remote data collection. Phone surveys need to be shorter and less complex than household surveys. Expenditure data that are required to calculate the economic capacity to meet essential needs indicator are too complex to be collected remotely. Instead, the survey used an adjusted version of the multidimensional deprivation index, as well as adjusted questions on coping and livelihoods. The assessment will help to understand how COVID-19 impacts poor urban households' ability to meet essential needs, if the ongoing cash transfer helps beneficiaries to meet their needs, and will make recommendations for adjusting the program if needed. To learn more about Essential Needs Assessment, visit the VAM Resource Center, where you will find the complete guidance, as well as other relevant resources and practical tools to help you with your work.